with us on this Wednesday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary from Florida. Moving around the country quite a bit, no question about it, and there's a lot going on. First of all, the endorsement by Sherrod Brown to Hillary Clinton continues to have an impact. Here's how it all unfolded, and I think that the Clinton campaign is clearly aware of the momentum that Bernie Sanders has had, and the impact he's had. And let me just give you the numbers. If you take anybody in the United States Senate, and if they were to get 400,000 people showing up town hall meetings, if they were to get 750,000 donors, if they were to get over 2 million people on websites tracking what they're doing daily, they'd be pretty excited. In fact, if their opponent was doing that, they'd be pretty nervous. And I think this is a very interesting rollout by the Clinton campaign, and the timing is so interesting. It was just a couple of days ago that Bernie Sanders was in New York, the focal point of a protest for the CWA workers who have been trying to get a contract with Verizon. Verizon has been a heavy-handed company all along. They can't get a deal. They've been intimidating workers in the workplace who have been talking about organizing. So who's out there with them? Bernie Sanders. The very next day, the Clinton campaign rolls out one of the most progressive senators in the United States Senate, and that is Sherrod Brown. Don't tell me there's not a connection there. The Clinton campaign is concerned about Bernie Sanders' momentum. And they also know that they've had to shift because Sanders is in this race. We've seen a shift on trade. We've seen a shift on the Keystone XL pipeline. We're getting more talk out of the Clintons when it comes to Wall Street. The question is, can you believe them? Is Hillary Clinton going to be a Wall Street Democrat, or is she really going to push for change? I mean, every Democratic candidate out there is talking about jobs in the middle class, jobs and wages, and they're all going to come up with proposals for social change. There's no question about that. But where do you stand on putting the heat on the people to make sure that these policies go through? And the classic example is trade. Right now, we are fighting the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And now that Hillary Clinton has got a guy like Sherrod Brown who goes to his hometown of Lorain, Ohio, and sees how all these jobs have been gutted because of a lousy trade deal, isn't it time for Hillary to start picking up the phone and start working these endorsements in the Senate to kill this deal? The majority of Democrats in the House, the majority of Democrats in the Senate are against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is the next big thing. So this is a test. We're going to have a lot of primaries. We're going to have a lot of caucuses when this deal unfolds in the first of the year. This is Bernie Sanders responding to where he's been on trade all along.
I have, from almost day one in the Congress, known that our trade policies have been a disaster for American workers. We have lost millions of decent-paying jobs.
But the subtext is that Hillary Clinton hasn't picked up that fight where you have.
Well, let me just say this. Let me put it in this way. I am delighted that in the last couple of months, Hillary Clinton has come on board positions that I have held for many, many years on trade, on the Keystone pipeline. If you're serious about climate change, you never support the transportation of some of the dirtiest fuel on Earth. So I'm glad that Hillary Clinton is moving in my direction.
Well, not only moving in a more progressive direction, but now has to be activated in killing the deal. Making sure Keystone doesn't get built. Make sure that the trade deal is deep sixed. And the only body right now, elected body on the face of the earth that can save the Trans-Pacific Partnership is the United States Congress. So if I know Bernie Sanders is working against it, all Democrats ought to be working against it. Sherrod Brown, who gave the endorsement yesterday, says there's not much difference between the two candidates.
But I know that both Bernie and Hillary have been what they're talking about, trade agreements, what they're talking about Wall Street reform, what they're talking about minimum wage, building and creating jobs and increasing wages. It's mainstream America, not mainstream Democrats. It's mainstream America. 70-80% of Americans think that Congress should concentrate on creating jobs, think that Congress should concentrate on increasing wages, paying, as this Labor Department is doing now in the Obama administration, making sure supervisory people making $30,000, $40,000 a year should be eligible for overtime. All those issues are such a part of mainstream Democratic politics and, frankly, mainstream America. And I don't see that much difference between the two of them, regardless of what Bernie has called himself over the years or what Hillary's called herself. I think they both speak to the great American tradition of solid democratic policies of creating a middle class and lifting up working people.
Okay, everybody gets that on the Democratic Party. We got to lift people up. We got to help the middle class. We got to increase wages. Do we understand, folks? If the Trans-Pacific Partnership goes through, all of those things are going to be undercut. So this is now a function of killing this deal. And you're going to have to wear two hats. You're going to have to run for president. You're going to have to kill the deal. You're going to have to use your clout to get it done. That's the assurance that I hope Sherrod Brown has gotten from Hillary Clinton, because I know that's where Bernie Sanders is. Bob Shrum had some interesting insights about why Sherrod Brown may have gone with Hillary Clinton and the impact that it's having.
Well, it's kind of the capstone of several weeks that have gone very well for her. The debate, the Benghazi committee, Senator Biden choosing not to run, the Iowa Jefferson-Jackson Day dinner, where she held her own, and where we now are seeing polls showing her lengthening her lead. I think Senator Brown is quite pleased that she's taken some of the positions she has, for example, on trade and on Wall Street reform. And I suspect he also believes she is going to be the nominee, and so he endorsed her.
So he suspects that she's going to be the nominee. I think there's a lot of that going on in the party. I really do. Tim Ryan joins us now, Congressman from Ohio. Certainly we all know how important winning the state of Ohio is. Tim, good to have you with us today.
Always good to be with you, big guy.
You bet. Your take on moving Hillary on issues, or does she have to be moved, and the Sanders effect here, and the endorsement of Sherrod Brown and what it means? Your thoughts?
I mean, here's the thing. Honestly, like she is a progressive. She's been a progressive for her entire life. And I think the one thing we saw during the Benghazi hearing is that she studies, she analyzes, she takes in all of the information and then processes it and makes decisions based on what's happening, what the facts on the ground are. And for her to take her time and look at an agreement and say, hey, where's the currency manipulation? Hey, where's the deeper and more aggressive standards on human trafficking? And then make a decision based on that, I think is a good thing. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And I realize that we're caught in the middle of a campaign here, but I'm comfortable, and you know I've been on the show a million times with you, Ed, about trade agreements and my deep concerns, what's happening in Ohio, but I don't have a problem with her taking time to analyze it and then make a decision.
Okay. Can the Democrats win Ohio? What does Sherrod Brown's endorsement mean? Does this, I get a sense that this is somewhat of a special lift, and there's a lot of conversation in the progressive sphere right now that this really clears the way for Elizabeth Warren to jump on board with Hillary. And she, of course, is being viewed by many people as the benchmark of the progressive movement in the Senate. Your thoughts on that?
I think it was big, and I think that obviously it's Ohio, but, Sherrod carries a lot of weight with the political left in America, not just in Ohio, but in America. And so it was a very big endorsement for Secretary Clinton. I think it's huge. And as far as winning Ohio, I think the issue for me that I think can help Democrats win Ohio is to talk about manufacturing.
Yeah.
We have got to bring back manufacturing, and we've got to have someone who has a plan to bring back manufacturing. And it's not just, we need manufacturing, we've got to make things again in America, and everybody believes that, but who has the plan to do it? And I think when you look at what Hillary Clinton's plan is for renewable energy, for alternative forms of energy, that is the key to unlock a next generation of manufacturing in places like Ohio. When you look at how much steel has to go into a windmill, when you look how many component parts, how many bolts, how much rebar, how many gear shifts and hydraulics and all of these things, this is what we manufacture in Ohio. So you better have a plan of renewable energy, and then you build in the manufacturing piece. That's how you create jobs. And those folks down in Southeast Ohio who are losing their coal jobs are going to want something to do.
Yeah.
And they're losing their coal jobs primarily because of the price of natural gas. So we better put those folks to work, and you do that by having a very aggressive plan on how we're going to manufacture things, because you make more wages when you manufacture something, you add value to products, you have a stronger pension, you have better benefits. So manufacturing, to me, is how we win Ohio.
In all of those things that you just accentuated, are are going to be undercut if the TPP goes through. There's no question about it. So aren't we at a position where, okay, take a stand, make your position known, but then you got to advocate, you got to try to kill the deal? What are your expectations of the leading Democratic candidates, whether it's Sanders or Clinton or O'Malley or Sanders or whatever? I mean, isn't this a full-throated effort? Shouldn't there be that on the campaign trail to kill this deal? It's just not about saying, hey, I'm against it.
Yeah, no, I think it should be a part and parcel of the rhetoric that's happening on the campaign trail, because you do have the bully pulpit, you do have the megaphone, and it should be expressed and should be expressed clearly. As you said, the rubber meets the road here in the House of Representatives, and we're working very hard on the ground. Okay. Rosa DeLauro and others are on our whip team, leading our whip team, and we're whipping votes here to try to beat the thing down, and I think we have a good shot to win it, and having that support from the air from our presidential candidates would be huge.
No doubt about it. All right, I got to get some insight from you on the Republican side. John Kasich is now, your governor in Ohio, is now throwing out this kind of statement against his counterparts.
I'm about had it with these people. And let me tell you why. We got one candidate that says that we ought to abolish Medicaid and Medicare. You ever heard of anything so crazy as that? We got one person saying we ought to have a 10% flat tax that'll drive up the deficit in this country by trillions of dollars that my daughters will spend the rest of their lives having to pay off. What I say to them is, why don't we have no taxes? Just get rid of them all, and then a chicken in every pot on top of it. We got one guy that says we ought to take 10 or 11 million people and pick them up. I don't know where we're going to go in their homes, their apartments. We're going to pick them up and we're going to take them to the border and scream at them to get out of our country. I mean, that's just crazy. What has happened to our party? What has happened to the conservative movement?
What is he doing there, Congressman? Your thoughts from an Ohio perspective?
Other than providing a lot of entertainment, he's positioning himself to be the establishment Republican that can take on Trump and Carson primarily, and wants to, really capture that ground of being a conservative, but yet being semi-reasonable. Now, I like John Kasich, but I think he's going to have a very difficult time because his record says something much different. While he is perceived and has made a couple of moves as a moderate, I think once his record gets revealed, it's going to be something much, much different. Now, the interesting part is going to be, if I'm the analyst pre-game, things to watch tonight at the debate.
Yeah.
Would be sounds like he's going to take a few punches. He's going to get hit back. So he's going to get hit back by some of the others on the stage, and how he responds to that. What's his temperament like? What's his tone like? Is he able to have a good response that will address the concerns of the right wing of the party, which he's been having trouble kind of getting connected to? Mm-hmm. Is he able to respond in a way that can both show his and reveal his temperament, and also allow him to maybe pull some of those conservatives? Because you look at Carson, you look at Trump, you're talking about 40 or 50% of the Republican vote is, obviously supportive of some of these issues that John Kasich is saying he's against. So how does he pick up some of those votes in there? It's going to be very interesting.
All right. The spotlights are going to be certainly on Kasich in a sense, but really on Donald Trump and how he's going to respond to now being number 2 in the most recent national poll. Congressman Tim Ryan, always great to visit. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Take care, Ed.
You bet. When we come back here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary, the great Mike Papantonio, Ring of Fire radio host and America's attorney, joins us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Stay with us. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegoted.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Back on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Good to have you with us from the great state of Florida in the studio of Mike Papantonio, Ring of Fire radio host, America's lawyer. Mike, good to have you with us. This is Sherrod Brown endorsement, I think, caught a lot of people flat-footed in the labor community, but it also raises the expectations of Hillary Clinton, doesn't it?
Well, it does. It makes Hillary look immediately like she's a progressive. It's the stamp of approval for progressives. And it is kind of the precursor to Elizabeth Warren. That's really the point. Is Elizabeth Warren going to follow suit and try to make Hillary look like something she's not? Mm-hmm. I think the most bothersome thing about it to me, Ed, is the union's inability to understand what's happening to them. I mean, it doesn't take much analysis. You've got the NEA, for example, education coming out saying, "Look, this is possibly our next president." They forget that she's one of the people that was hugely involved in education reform. She's one of the people that was behind the idea of let's change the way we educate our children. What that means is close more schools, allow chartered schools, allow for special deals for schools that want to do something more in line with what we believe is this concept of no child left.
Well, let me give you a connection to that, and that's Rahm Emanuel, the mayor in Chicago. It seems to me that Hillary Clinton has been quiet on the picking and choosing of neighborhoods in Chicago when these low socioeconomic type neighborhoods are being shut down, losing their schools, and cutting opportunities all because of the budget. Well, if you need more money in the budget, you got to go find it. You don't take it out on the kids. Bernie Sanders has been very clear on that. He's been against it. In fact, he supported the candidate who ran against Rahm Emanuel. Hillary Clinton, of course, was silent on this. So it is puzzling that these unions, the American Federation of Teachers, the National Education Association, against the will of a lot of their members, they've come out and endorsed Hillary.
Well, it doesn't end there, Ed. If you think about it, how does any union say that, yeah, this is a woman that has something in common with us? Look, Hillary Clinton grew up with Walmart. She was board of directors of Walmart. Her staffers come from Walmart. This is the most anti-union organization in the world, possibly. How does a union say, yeah, we're good with her? We understand we're gonna overlook the fact that what put her on the map politically was organizations like Walmart. The TPP is a great example.
Yeah.
But how do we forget that she helped? She's one of the people that put wheels on the TPP. She helped negotiate some of the possibilities of TPP, and now she's turning around saying, "Well, gee whiz, I don't think it's such a great idea." To me, the naivety of some of this union leadership is almost overwhelming. It takes me back to the days when the union said, "Yeah, Ronald Reagan's probably going to be a good president," and from there, it's been downhill for the unions ever since. There's no difference in this woman and Obama.
This is not about personal. This is not about the candidate. This is about the issues and where the candidates are on the issues.
Exactly.
So where does this, where does this leave Bernie Sanders, in your opinion?
Well, Bernie Sanders has got to continue doing what he's doing, and that is showing up with huge crowds, making sure that he looks more like the populist than Hillary Clinton. Because look, this is a facade. Hillary Clinton's populism is a facade, Ed. Any way you want to dress it up, this Sherrod Brown certainly doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help Bernie Sanders in trying to make the distinction between himself and Hillary Clinton. And to have Sherrod Brown come out and say there's no difference between these two candidates is just absolutely insane.
That's not right. There is a huge difference between these two candidates. And, of course, Bernie Sanders is somewhat taking the high road, just pointing out, hey, I've been here all along. It's nice to see Hillary come over. Is it good politics for him to question her position of just how genuine she is on this? I think the point I was making earlier, okay, now go kill the deal.
I think he has to at some point. Look, I really respect the idea that Bernie's been out there high ground. I'm not going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about the other candidate. But how do you not talk about Hillary Clinton's relationship with anti-union organizations for decades? How do you ignore the fact that it's Bill Clinton, her husband, that's going to have a huge influence on her candidacy and her presidency, that brought us NAFTA and CAFTA and every other union-busting organization since then, and say that the unions this is a smart move for them to come out and negotiate with her and endorse her. Mm-hmm. I just think it's in more of that Republican, it's more of that Ronald Reagan Republican connection that the unions felt they had to make back with Ronald Reagan. It's more of that failure.
Okay, let's go to the crazy train. Tonight, CNBC is going to be doing the Republican debate. Ben Carson now has overtaken Donald Trump, not only in an Iowa poll, but in one of the most recent national polls. Here's Trump's reaction on the stump in Iowa.
From the time I announced, I've been at the top of the polls, almost at the top. We're doing well. Iowa, will you get your numbers up, please? Hey. Will you get these numbers up? I am a great Christian, and I am. Remember that. And I do well with the evangelicals. But the evangelicals left me down a little bit this last month. I don't know what I did. So, by the way, before I forget, will you get the numbers up, Iowa, please? This is ridiculous. I mean, what is my competition? In all fairness, what is my competition? Do you think these guys, I'm not going to say Carson. I'm not going to say Rubio, who really is way down. I mean, I am second. It's not like terrible, but I don't like being second. Second is terrible to me.
All hat, no cattle. I mean, it's all hat. I mean, if he wants to talk about getting to be number one, this is why you should put me at number one. This policy, this is what I'm good. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I believe in. Trump is an unguided missile right now.
Well, there's no substance to Trump, but that seems to have a lot of appeal to the Republican base. I mean, when you think of Ben Carson, I mean, where's the substance? What has Ben Carson said that adds to a serious conversation about anything substantive? Every day, it's some new drama. 2 days ago, he was talking about how he almost killed somebody with a knife, and his poll numbers went up in Iowa. Thomas Frank wrote a great book, What's the Matter with Kansas? I think Iowa is that new focus. It's almost they're almost incapable of finding a bottom to their willingness to put up with stupidity.
So is this the beginning of a big slide for Trump? Is tonight a benchmark, and is this a big debate tonight?
It's a big debate, but Trump is like he's silicone in a way. Every time we say Trump has said something so insane that it's over for Trump, his poll numbers go up. And so I don't think you can ever say Trump going into a debate is going to hurt Trump. Because with the voters out there, with the new base of the Republican Party, with the people who are going to the polls, and they represent who the Republican Party is today, I don't think there is a bottom to it, Ed.
All right. I want to talk about foreign policy for just a moment, because I know that you've done a lot of commentaries on it. ISIS, there's no border now between Iran and Syria. It's like it's a line on a piece of paper. I mean, ISIL has infiltrated and occupied and made this an absolute quagmire. I mean, we tried an invasion in Iraq. We tried something different in Libya. We've tried something different in Syria. Now the Russians are involved militarily. I mean, who has the right answers for the Middle East? And I guess my point is that I think that any of these candidates, if they articulate their position on what they're going to do on the Middle East, it's either been tried before and it's failed before, and there's no new avenue that's going to impress anybody. Your thoughts on how this quagmire that is unfolding in the Middle East is going to play into the presidential election and how campaigns are handling it? I mean, the answer that Bernie Sanders gives is that the president's in a tough spot. He's tried to do different things. Hillary Clinton, I don't know exactly how she would handle all this. Trump says he'd bomb the hell out of him again. We'd go back to the Bush plan. I mean, it's like there's no easy way out. How do we stop ISIS, and how does that play in the presidential election?
Well, it plays well, but we're going to bomb the hell out of them is not the solution when you have Russia and China that are responding to statements like that. And so I think, it's almost, you almost go back to the original thoughts of Howard Zinn. I mean, this is right on point. Howard Zinn said that when you build an empire, sometimes you have to walk away from what you've built and let it run its course. That's what we've done in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And you have some candidates that are maybe hitting around that idea to some degree. Bernie Sanders has said that sometimes you have to walk away from it and you have to let the natural course of whatever's going on in that region take its course, like we did in South America, if you think about it.
Sure.
I mean, it's exactly what we did in South America. We just said at some point we had to walk away from it, we had to let it take its course and let it land on its natural energy. There are a lot of people who believe that's the only solution. The closest person talking about that probably is Bernie Sanders. He hasn't come out and said that, but he understands that going in and bombing the hell out of the Middle East again is not even an option with the world as it is. We've got Russia and China looking at us and saying, this is not an American decision anymore.
Colin Powell, you break it, you fix it. Is that where we are?
That's exactly it.
Mike Papantonio, always great to visit. Thanks so much. Final comments after this.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
The Ed Schultz Internet broadcast is brought to you by the Ring of Fire radio show. Listen to the Ring of Fire weekends on radio stations across the country. Get more information and the news of the day at ringofireradio.com.
Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSafe team bring you Ed Schultz News and Commentary. You get us at ringofireradio.com, rawstory.com, and at wegoted.com. The next move for Hillary Clinton should be what? Well, if she can wrap up Elizabeth Warren, that would pretty much call it off for Bernie Sanders. I really believe that. Bernie Sanders is going to have to get more aggressive. I don't know how he gets more aggressive without pointing out the differences between the two campaigns, and he's going to have to start addressing this narrative that seems to be permeating throughout the progressive movement, scratching their head wondering if Bernie can actually win. He has to tell the people he can win. He has to tell the people he should be the president of the United States, and he should also remind people that he has the resources to go all the way through this process into March of 2016. We're a long way from the finish line. If Sanders can win Iowa, and if he can win the first primary state in New Hampshire, it could be a game changer. It ain't over till it's over. This guy's drawn over 400,000 people to town halls. He's got 2 million people following on websites, and he's got 750,000 donors. These are huge numbers, and I think they're going to grow. We're a long way from over. Elizabeth Warren, watch for her reaction in the coming days. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary. We're back tomorrow.